Okay, so you finally decided to kick the dirt box build to the curb and built yourself a beautiful little house in Terraria. But there's a problem. You suck at decorating. Well, not to fear, Tommy is here, and today I'm going to show you some really simple tips, ideas, concepts, things, or whatever you want to call it, that I like to do that can help your design go from middling to, well, magical. Or at least a solid 7 out of 10. So with that said, let's get into it, shall we? Alright, so here we are at our wonderful little house. You'll notice there's nothing in it, and for good reason, because it wouldn't be much of a tutorial if I just had a finished product sitting here. Anyways, let's jump into the first part, which is going to be identity. I think it's really important for you to first identify what in God's name is this space going to be. Is it a bedroom, a bathroom, a kitchen, a library? Who knows? I'm sure, like me, you've had this problem where sometimes you catch yourself just sort of building a bunch of spaces without realizing what is this actually even going to be. Should the biggest room in the house be a bathroom? Probably not. And conversely, should the smallest be the dining room? Hard to say. Figuring out what your room is going to be is going to make your decorating a lot easier because you have a concept of what types of things are going to go in there. Now, that's not to say that you can't mix things up, but for the purposes of decorating things, it will make things a lot simpler. So for our purposes, I've decided that I'll be making this room into a kitchen. Eventually. Now that we have an identity for this room, it's perhaps not surprising that this thing doesn't look anything like a kitchen. In fact, it looks kind of boring. And the reason for that is in part to the second item on our list, which is blank walls. Yes, the blank wall is a canvas, but like most people, you probably fall into the camp of using a single wall type and calling it a day. Well, this day is different, and what you'll want to do is add some variety here, and this can really be any wall type that you think looks good, but in my case, I'll be swapping out our basic wood walls with some unpainted white dynasty walls. From there, I'll add some brown painted ebonwood walls to make it look like we've got some vertical supports within this structure. And next I'm going to swap out the top layer with some brown painted mahogany wall. And from there I think I'll also change the bottom layer to something a bit more distinct, so this white painted iron brick wall will do the trick. With that done, I just have to copy this rough concept into the small little attic space. And already, this looks so much better than the single wall variety. Again, you don't have to use the exact materials that I do, but the concept is essentially that you want to use more than one singular material and maybe toss on a coat of paint, and you should see a significant improvement to your home. So now that we've got a bit of variety in our walls, the next thing you want to do is add some room appropriate furniture, which is really my third tip or concept, furniture. And no, I don't mean a single table with a chair, aka the Terraria standard. Like our walls, we want some variety, but we also want it to be something that fits the purpose of the room. Importantly, I will say there is a lot of furniture in Terraria, but you can also make your own custom stuff if you are so inclined, but more on that later. For now, since we're in a kitchen/dining room area, I'll need a nice kitchen table. So I'll be using 2 banquet tables, which you can make using any kind of wood at a sawmill, and including a chair on either side. In this case, I'm using pearlwood chairs, but most any chair that you like will work just fine. Then I just slap down a coat of deep teal paint to the tables, and there we've got ourselves a matching set of furniture. Now, this on its own looks pretty good, and most people might just be happy with this, but if we add just a little bit more furniture to the room, it will feel a lot more detailed and ultimately a lot more complete. And since we're in a kitchen and I like to eat, I think it's important to add a stove. Now, you might be thinking, but Tommy, there aren't any stoves in Terraria, just this big cooking pot. And yes, the cooking pot and the cauldron, they're usable and they have actual real use in Terraria because you can make food with them, but I'm going to go for something a little bit more modern. And to that end, I'll show you how I make a really simple custom stovetop. Yep, you're going to make your very own custom furniture. So to make your custom stovetop, first you're going to need a dresser. Yes, a dresser, that item that you never really use and probably didn't even realize actually has storage in it.
Bruh.
Now you could grab any of these, but preferably one that looks a little bit more like a classic stovetop, so I'd say something like the bone dresser, or in this case the ebonwood dresser, and just simply pop that down. Then you'll need 3 of the seemingly most random, non-connected items you might ever utter in a sentence. A logic gate, a logic lamp, and a bowl. Yeah, I know it's weird, but trust me, I'm a professional. So take that logic gate, put it on one side of the dresser, then add as many logic lamps as you need to get to the ceiling. Then grab your bowl, in this case a dynasty bowl, and place it on the space remaining on the dresser. and voila, your custom stovetop is done. Well, okay, it's properly assembled at least. The finishing touch is actually to add a bit of black paint to give it that old cast iron look. So slap on some black paint, and there you have it. Your very first piece of custom furniture is now complete. From here, you might want to add some additional pieces of furniture. This could be anything from a comfy couch to a simple chest or a coat rack, but generally just something that helps fill the space without being too cluttered. In my case, I decided to use a simple Dynasty sink because it fits the motif and it helps us wash our plates afterwards. So with our table, our sink, and our stove, our furniture is now in place, and we're going to move on to the next important piece of the decorating puzzle: detail work. Now, for me, this type of decoration is in a lot of ways the smallest, but the most important, and I have a few that I rely on pretty heavily. And for me, that means books, bottles, and glasses, as well as mugs. Now, similar to furniture, this category includes a lot of different items. Crates, music boxes, coins, jars, paintings, and item frames are just a small sample of what you might find in this category. With all this choice, you might feel a little overwhelmed, but this is why I emphasize the importance of having a clear identity for your room. So for a kitchen, all I need to do is find some spots to place some of my books down. Often this is going to be on platforms or on the tables or really anywhere there's a surface that these can actually land on. But importantly, I won't just fill the space with books. I'll actually space these out with some bottles and some of those glasses as well as some of those mugs. Now, looking at the table, it looks pretty good, but I actually think we're missing something, and this is where I'm going to let you in on a secret that a lot of people don't know about. So you're likely aware that there's a variety of foods in Terraria that you can craft or find, but what you probably didn't know is that there's also a little item called a plate. Now, this plate can be crafted with some clay blocks at the furnace and provide you with a very distinctive decoration, and you can actually place any food item on said plate, and it adds a wonderful and interesting piece to your design. And of course, it's more than fitting for any kitchen. With a few books, bottles, glasses, and even a few plates with food, our kitchen is starting to actually look like, well, a kitchen. Finally, I'm going to add a small painting to the middle of this room just to add some more detail and some texture. Now that's looking a lot better, and these details are really starting to bring our design to life, but to give it even more life, we need, we need life, and specifically, we want some plant life. Arguably, this is more of a subcategory of the detail work concept, but I separate them because it will make your life easier and because not every room necessarily will need plant life. But this one certainly does, and I'm going to use two of my favorite plants. The first one is the simple clay pot, which given time will grow a little flower on it and adds a nice little pop of color. Now, you don't need a ton of these, but they look really good on a table, under a window, or maybe anywhere you think a little extra color might be of benefit. The second plant is one item that I think people are sleeping on and is probably one of my favorites in the plant life category: coral. Did you know that you can place coral on platforms and that it has various patterns? They also have this really awesome vibrant color which can help break things up. So I'm going to place a few of these down where there might be too many books or not enough color or texture. Now, not every coral is necessarily going to work here, but my favorite ones are the green, blue, or pink coral variants, and alternatively you could just use any of them and give them a quick coat of paint to fit your design. But ultimately, in my opinion, the clay pots and coral work really nicely in this design, but some other plant options that you might consider could be planter boxes, potted trees, or some hanging herbs. But ultimately, like most things, it's really completely up to you. Anyways, now that our design is full of life, it's going to also need to be filled with something else: light. That's right, we're on to the final step in how to decorate your home in Terraria, and that's lighting. Now, lighting is often a bit of an afterthought for most folks, and that's okay, I totally get it, is what you thought I'd say. But no, you're not doing your lighting correctly, and that makes you a very bad, terrible person. What's the lighting source most of you use? A simple torch. Just terrible. Okay, I'm being a bit facetious here, but there are a ton of different lighting options in Terraria, and you should really take a closer look at them if you're looking to enhance your builds. So no, there isn't anything inherently wrong with the torch, it's just a bit boring. Especially when you consider you have lamps, candles, candelabras, lanterns, chandeliers, and even a lava lamp to work with. You also have glass walls, which can act as windows, so while yes, these are walls, they also let light in, so technically these count as well when it comes to lighting. So for our kitchen, I'm going to use a combination of windows, lanterns, and candles. In this case, a few well-placed windows add some light, as well as these granite lanterns, which once painted gray actually look pretty good. Then for candles, I'm using some Dynasty candles, which I am a big fan of, and I just toss a few of those here and there. Importantly, with lighting, sometimes less is more. You don't need 20 torches or 20 candles. It just adds too much clutter, and it's okay to have areas that aren't quite as well lit. Ultimately, in my opinion, the concept is the same for any kind of lighting you're going to do. Space it out, or add them wherever you think light is needed or where you want to break up your design. You don't need a lot in a build, particularly one of this size, but each lantern, candle, and or fireplace can really brighten things up. Get it? That was a good joke. But in all seriousness and lame jokes aside, let's recap all the things that I think will help you decorate your next build in Terraria. First and most importantly, you want to identify what your build or room is going to be. Then you want to make sure you fix your blank walls by adding a few different wall types or variants and maybe a coat of paint. After that, you want to place furniture that lines up with the identity of your room. If it's a bedroom, then you'll probably want a bed, a bathroom, maybe a toilet. Once you got the bare bones set up, from there you can get stuck in with some of the smaller details by using things like books, bottles, paintings, racks, jars, and really anything you can think of. And to add some greenery and life to the build, you'll want to include some plants like clay pots, potted plants, and or some coral. Finally, include some well-placed lighting using a variety of lamps, candles, or lanterns to give the room those final touches. And there you have it. You've taken your untextured single material dirt box and converted it into a fun, lived-in, and detailed design. I hope that these concepts and tips give you a better idea of how I like to decorate my builds and help you realize that it's not actually that hard and it's relatively easy to make a design come to life. Now, if you enjoyed this video, maybe check out this other video on top tips for building, or maybe something different like my 150-day journey through Calamity as a builder. Either way, thanks for watching, and as always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.